everyone, hope you've had a lovely half term. We're going to start this week by looking at a brand new text. It's by an author called Maurice Gleitzman, who's actually our author focus for this half term, and you'll be familiar with him and his series of books, the first one being Once, which we're actually going to look at now, if you actually did the transition activities in the summer term that we set for you. I spoke to you about him and his books and how much I really enjoy them, and I think you will too. So the first thing I'd like you to do, please, is to find the excerpt that we've attached to this and read the first 2 chapters of the book Once. What you'll notice is that the author has made sure that every chapter in the book starts with the word once, so you'll pick up on that as you read it. But you'll be introduced to Felix, who is a young boy about around your age, the main character in the book. So have a read of Once, chapters 1 and 2, and when you've done that, press play again. Second thing I'd like you to do is to have a go at some handwriting. Your word for today is there, it's plead. So have a go at that and make sure that your P really descends below the line. If it's on top of the line at all, it looks like a capital letter. So make sure it does descend, and make sure that your L and your D are nice and tall, please. So pause this and have a go at that. Alright, so this week our writing task, we're basically going to be writing an informal letter. Now if you cast your minds back to September, and the first thing that we did in year 6, we wrote formal letters, which obviously have a certain tone of voice to them. You've got to be very correct in terms of your tone of voice in these letters. You don't want to use any slang, you don't want to be too chatty in them, you want to be very direct and to the point. It's a formal letter. Now this is totally different. We're only going to spend a week on this because you know how letters are structured now, but this is an informal letter, and these tend to be written to friends or people that you know very well. Now Felix, our main character, as you'll know by now, is based in an orphanage, even though he's not an orphan at this time. So he's going to be writing an informal letter to his parents to keep them up to date with what he's up to, but really trying to persuade them he's a bit fed up of this orphanage now, please come and get me. And obviously, because he's writing a letter to his parents, he knows them so well, it's going to have that chatty, informal style. So the first thing you're going to do today is look at the waggle attached to this, and it's what a good one looks like of an informal letter. It's annotated to show the various features of informal letters that are included by the writer, but have a bit of a think please about what differences you notice between the informal letter and the formal one that we wrote in our first 2 weeks. So there are some really glaringly obvious differences there. An important feature of informal writing is that there's usually a chatty, informal tone to the letter, or email or postcard, whatever that informal piece of writing is that you're doing. As it happens this week, it's going to be a letter. But today, in order to practice that chatty, informal tone, I want you to write a quick email to a friend in your class. It can be anybody. It can even be your teacher or teaching assistant. I don't mind who. You're going to tell them about something you did over half term, and it could be anything. It could be baking a cake. It could be going on a shopping trip. It could be absolutely anything. I don't mind what it is that you write about. You can make something up. That doesn't matter. The focus today is that you're writing in this chatty tone that we want to see. You're taking on that role of writing in this informal way. So like I say, I don't mind necessarily what you write about. I don't mind who you write it to. It's just going to be a very simple email. It should be at least 10 lines long. I wouldn't say any more than that, because then it sort of would lose its effect. But have a bit of a chatty tone there, please. Nice and informal, using the waggle as an example, if you're unsure. Morning year 6. So for our second English lesson of the week, I'd like you to, first of all, to read chapter 3 of the book Once. The next thing I'd like you to do is to have a go at the handwriting. The word today is pleaded, so you're just adding on that the E and the D at the end of plead from yesterday. So have a go at writing that, please. Again, make sure that your P descends below the line, your L and your D's are both nice and tall. Okay, so I explained to you yesterday we're going to be writing an informal letter. by the end of the week, and our task today is to plan it so that we are all set for when we actually start to write this over the next 2 days. Today you're going to use the template that's attached, or obviously if you're working from home you can either print it off or just write it out in a book. Totally up to you how you set it out. Things to remember though today when we're writing this informal letter: you are going to pretend to be Felix. Okay, so you're writing as him. You're writing to your parents to tell them about the orphanage that you're in and to try and persuade them to come and get you. So there's a lot of things that you're going to want to tell your parents about. There may be things that you've read in the first 3 chapters, specific events, scenarios, things that have happened that you might want to mention to your parents, maybe to get a little chuckle out of them, make them laugh, maybe to make them want to come and get you a little bit earlier than they were planning to. Now, as we learned yesterday, your language needs to be chatty and informal. And if you're unsure about that, again, look back at yesterday's Waggle, but also look back at your email that you had to practice writing, just to see that tone of voice that you used. There's a planning template attached to this, so you can collect your ideas there. Remember, the more you can get down on this planning template and the more you can spell words correctly, the more you can use adventurous vocabulary, the more ideas you can have, the more it will help you tomorrow. So the more effort you put in today, hopefully it will really pay off over the next 2 days. So today, plan your informal letter. Good morning, Year 6. So today we're going to start writing our informal letter, but before you do that, I'd like you to read one chapter of the book, and it's going to be chapter 4 today, please. So pause this until you've done that. Okay, so today's writing task, we're going to start writing our informal letter. Now, this letter is going to take a bit of concentrating to do, so it's going to take you 2 days. So split it into 2 halves. Today's lesson, we're going to be focusing on the things in the bullet points that you can see on screen. So just as your Waggle, use your Waggle as an example, you're going to write your address, so where you are, make it up, you're at that orphanage in the top right hand corner. You're going to write the date that you're going to be writing the letter. Now, bearing in mind this is set in World War II, so I would say around 1943. Don't mind, you can use today's date. It can be the 4th of November 1943. That's absolutely fine. You're going to write an opening paragraph. Now, all letters, whether they're formal or informal, will start with an opening paragraph, and that really explains to people why you're writing the letter in the first place. Now, in an informal letter, we really want that you to be sort of saying hello to your parents, hoping that they're well, and telling them how you are, very, very briefly. It's brief because you're going to go into more detail further on in the letter. So once you've done that opening paragraph, the final thing you're going to be writing today is a paragraph to tell your parents about the orphanage you're in and what you like and dislike about it. So you might want to mention things like the friends that you've made or the enemies that you've made. You might want to tell them about the nuns, the food, what your bedroom's like. It could be anything, but you're explaining to your parents about the orphanage. Now, as you've read the first 4 chapters of the book, you'll have a good idea about what Felix thinks about the orphanage and how he finds it. So if you can't remember that, you need to go back and you need to read those 4 chapters again. When you've done that, you're not finished yet. You need to edit your work. You're checking for spelling, grammar and punctuation errors. This week we're not going to have a standalone editing lesson, so we need to do it as we go. Now, the criteria you're going to use to edit your work is on the next slide. So while you're actually writing your work today, you might want to have that slide up in front of you so that you know exactly what I expect you to include in your work. And then you're done for today. Morning, Year 6. So this is our final writing lesson of this week. First of all, though, I'd like you to read chapter 5 of the book once. Okay, so today in our writing task, we're going to be finishing writing our informal letter. So the most important thing for you to do first of all is to read very carefully what you wrote yesterday. The reason you need to read what you wrote yesterday is because you don't want to repeat yourself in your letter. So remind yourself what you've written already, use the plan that you've got at home, you can tick off what you've already done. Look at the success criteria from yesterday, and I suggest you have that slide up again while we're actually writing today, and you can sort of mark off what it is you've already done so you know what you've actually got to include today. When you've done that, you're going to write a paragraph after the one yesterday. I suppose we finished yesterday with writing a paragraph about telling your parents about the orphanage. Today you're going to pick up and you're going to write a paragraph persuading your parents to come and get you. You don't want to stay at the orphanage anymore. You miss your parents. You want to spend time with them. So you need to persuade your parents to come and get you. You need to be really convincing here. So think of lots of different reasons why you want to be with them and why being with them is better than being in the orphanage, because obviously your parents have put you there because they think it's safer. You need to persuade them that it isn't. So you need to be quite convincing there, and you'll all have lots of different reasons as to why you think that's the case. After that, you're going to write a closing paragraph summing up your letter. So it should end really hopefully, because Felix is very optimistic, very full of hope, and he's definitely, when he's thinking about his parents, he's definitely thinking that his parents are going to come and get him. There's no question in his mind, so it needs to be really hopeful, a really sort of loving ending, how you would end a letter to anyone in your family. But again, it's that chatty, informal tone all the way through it. So it'll end with like rather than a yours sincerely, you know, I hope to see you soon, or something along those lines. Again, same as yesterday, when you've done that, you need to edit your work again. So the section you've written today, you're checking for spelling, grammar and punctuation errors. And then what we expect from that, after this lesson, is that you've got a complete informal letter. And from that, that should be the best piece of writing that you've ever done. So that's the standard we're expecting. Use the success criteria to help you. It should be absolutely fantastic. I'm expecting great things year 6, so good luck.